Faith Without Borders. I'm your host, Pastor, and glad that you're able to join us. We're going to get right in it today, but we will start today by just acknowledging with our Ethiopian sisters and brothers that today is Easter in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. And so we would want to say Malcolm Fasika to all of our Ethiopian sisters and brothers. Fasika is the Amharic word for Easter and refers to the 55 days where Ethiopians celebrate their most important festival of the year. This festival, which celebrates the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, is one of the most long-standing within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. And so we celebrate with all of our sisters and brothers here in the United States, around the world, and especially in Ethiopia, where I have several friends right there in Addis. And so we want to say to all of them, Malcolm Fasika. Malcolm Fasika. So we pray that you will have a blessed day as we continue to those surrounded by Good Friday experiences. We want to be a people of the resurrection and Easter people. That's what we're going to be connecting with as we deal with some Good Friday experiences that Black migrants are facing here in the United States. And so this morning we're going to be delving into that in terms of, just the state of, Black migrants. And I have a dear sister, leader that's with us this morning. That is attorney Nana Gyamfi. So glad that she could be here with us. I know her schedule is crazy. So we're going to use all the minutes we have, with her. Nana is the executive director of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. That is the movement that Reverend Phil Lawson and I started 15 years ago. And it has been in extraordinary hands and leadership. And Nana is the current executive director, and she is taking it to a whole nother level with her experience. I met her right here in Los Angeles when she was representing, Black people experiencing, law enforcement and the law in so many ways. She's a warrior, and that's an integral part of the name of the organization that she founded here in Los Angeles. She's an integral part of the movement for Black Lives, and now at the helm of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, leading our work for Black migrants. So, Attorney Gyamfi, are you there?
I am here. I am
Good
here. Great to
morning.
see
Look
you.
at you, looking
Glad to
all
be here.
colorful and beautiful. Lord have mercy. You make me
Trying.
want to wear glasses. You see, when you roll out all them frames, I'm like, man, maybe I should try and wear some glasses. Maybe I can see things clearly. Listen, so good to see you. I know you're busy. We're in the middle of a lot of things going on. We kicked off, the 10 days solidarity for Black migrants yesterday, being May Day. So we want to get into that because we want to let folk know how they can support and provide solidarity for us. So we know yesterday was May Day, International Labor Day. That's kind of what I grew up with too,
Right.
in South Africa. And the key message yesterday from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, to New York and everywhere was really, bringing to the forefront, amplifying, the value of essential workers and so many of our immigrant sisters and brothers working in that, service sector, in that essential, workers sector. Yet, many of our essential rights, right, are not being cared for. And right now we are in the thralls of pushing for comprehensive and humane immigration reform. We want to zoom in on how this connects with, Black migrants. And so I'm gonna, let you just share some thoughts around, yesterday, where we are as black migrants in this, the state of black migrants, and then we'll dig into, the 10 days and the upcoming caravan. So good to have you here, and I'm gonna let you roll.
So thank you. I mean, the uh, we need to think about it in that context that you brought us into, which really is looking at it internationally
Mm-hmm.
and how we are connected to workers and to people all over the world. And so I think that May Day is one of the few days that this country allows us to really dig into the work, to dig into the issues of workers and worker rights in a national kind of way. It is one of my favorite days of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We see different movements come together, and certainly yesterday we saw that, whether it be the workers' rights movement, whether it be movement for immigrant rights, whether it be the movement for climate change. I mean, all of those things come together around the worker, because we who are working, who are
Mm-hmm.
not the super rich, right, in the world, who don't even have to take a salary because they can just get it off their Swiss accounts, we know what it is to need for human rights to be respected
Mm-hmm.
and for human dignity to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a day when we all come together to push back for that. In this year, I know for the immigrant rights movement, yes, one of the main issues was essential workers and the not just human rights of essential workers, but the capacity of essential workers to be able to get permanent protections in this country from being detained and from being deported.
Mm-hmm.
And so for Black migrants, the questions are not, it's not just about work. It's always additional layers to what we're talking about. And so when we look at the acts, the Citizenship Act, which really consists of three bills, that you could
Mm-hmm.
put separately, but they're pushing them all together. One of them being the Essential Worker Bill, a bill that's having to do with farm workers, a bill that is having to do with people who have DACA, also known as Dreamers, and people
Mm-hmm.
who have temporary protective status, also known as TPS, to be able to get a pathway to citizenship. And for Baji, we are really concerned because of all of the criminal bars, all of the exceptions that have been made
Mm-hmm.
to who can get onto this pathway, which you and I, Rev, know is not really a pathway. It's really an obstacle course. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? A tough mudder. You're really going under the barbed wire and climbing over the walls. It takes people a long time. And even the Citizenship Act contemplates, in some cases, taking up to 8 years
Mm-hmm.
for someone to become a citizen. But some people are not even getting to the beginning, right? Not even getting to the start line because of criminal convictions. And most of those people are going to be Black people. Much of
Mm-hmm.
our community is going to be impacted. And so while we are, supportive of permanent protections, we want all 11 million undocumented people to get permanent protections. And certainly when we talk about the essential worker, if the essential worker has a petty theft on their record, if the essential worker, I'm thinking about George Floyd and this big brouhaha that was made about of him allegedly passing a 20. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if he's a Black immigrant and, it passes a 20, a so-called fake 20, they're not going to be included in this essential worker pathway. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's important that when we look at all of these so-called reforms, that we don't just focus on the people that are easiest for folks to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
but that we really focus on the least privileged of the most marginalized. And when we look at who those people are, we're going to find that those people are Black.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really the key piece. I mean, we talk about comprehensive and we talk about, humane. Yet, in so many ways, for black migrants, it is inhumane. And it seems as if the invisibility continue as to who gets left behind. And so
Well,
I just want to see if you can just, say a little bit about just our concerns around, what's being pushed forward, the possibility of what President Biden presented that might be, broken up, And so hence, your phrase, this is an obstacle course and not just a smooth path, around
Right.
this. Can you just kind of break a few of, those, loopholes, those obstacles, especially as it relates to Black migrants?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, let's not say there's an invisibility, Rev. I wish that I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when that was the case. But as you
Mm-hmm.
pointed out, Baji's 15 years old. And, you are not just one of the co-founders, you're one of the people who then and now continues to push and to
Mm-hmm.
talk about Black migrants and make sure we're at the
Mm-hmm.
fore. People are clear. If folks go and they, look at the language and the conversations that people are having, who are in, other major immigrant rights organizations, everyone is saying, oh, and by the way, we know that this leaves Black migrants behind.
Right.
Everybody's saying
Mm-hmm.
that. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
they don't say that. It's just that that's the price they're willing to pay. And that's what these 10 days of action that we're going to talk about in a moment are also about, is about reminding folks that yeah, we are not willing to be the price to pay. We
Right.
cannot continue as Black migrants to be the sacrificial lambs that are laid on the altar so that other people can get, the prize of permanent protection from detention and deportation, especially since we are disproportionately detained and deported.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look, just looking at the criminal bars, which are a big piece for us,
Mm-hmm.
76% of all Black migrants who get deported from this country are deported on criminal grounds. If you're from the Caribbean, if you're Haitian, it's 83%. If
Mm.
you're Jamaican, it's 96%. If you are from Trinidad, if you're from the Bahamas, if you're from Grenada, it's 100%. The latest numbers that we can get, that anyone can get, shows that 100% of these countries that I named lastly, that every single person that was deported on criminal grounds. And those criminal grounds, even today, can be something as simple as petty theft, because in the federal world, that's considered an aggravated felony. And what we've learned from talking with folks in the administration is that actually the arrest and detention from ICE for people who are within their priorities, which includes public safety, right? This criminal sanctions piece that I'm speaking of, have gone up 50% since Joe Biden has become president.
Hmm.
They've gone up. So arrests in general by ICE have gone down. But the arrests that have to do with us as Black people, and also some Southeast Asian groups, I have
Mm-hmm.
to include them,
Mm-hmm.
has gone up 50%. And so when you tell us that those same criminal bars that or crimes that are causing us to be deported, right? When you say that being named by a police officer as a gang member, as Adam Toledo was, that 13-year-old that was
Mm-hmm.
blown away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
people try to justify it by saying, well, he was a gang member. For some reason, as an immigrant rights movement, we can wrap our brain around, we support George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, we don't want Adam Toledo to be blown away. But when it comes to Black immigrants within the immigration conversation, oh, well, Black lives don't matter so much now because
Mm-hmm.
we have these other things that we're interested
Mm-hmm.
in. And the criminal bars in the Dream and Promise Act, in the Essential Worker Act, in the Farm Workers Act, those criminal bars are what keep Black folks from being able to be a part of this conversation. And so we're glad that we have some organizations that have joined us in saying, hey, this is not good. We don't want these criminal bars, and are pushing back against the criminal
Mm-hmm.
bars.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying we don't want other people to get in, right? But how long are we supposed to wait to be able to be treated as part of the migrant family,
Yeah.
not just in words, but in actions? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Well, how do you treat the Black people in your family? That's what's important,
Right.
as opposed to looking at someone else's family and saying, oh, we love you, we respect you, your life matters. No, does a life matter right here at your own table?
Yeah, absolutely. And we and you and I know that this country is, of course, infected with and affected by this whole sense of carcerality, especially carcerality, towards BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. But for today, especially around black migrants. And I think we need to be clear about that. I mean, it's almost like there's a value gap within a value gap, right? As we look at this, we have 10 days that we would want to amplify, the challenges of black migrants, the opportunities we have to be in solidarity, as we do the work that we've been called to do. Budget's leading that effort. I know Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Southern California is a part of that. Clergy for Black Lives is a part of that. SEIU, is a part of that. Tell us about the 10 days of support and solidarity that kicked off yesterday, and just some of the activities that will be going on during these 10 days.
So we're really excited about these 10 days. There's a pieces of it that we don't think have been done before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you indicated, we kicked off the 10 days with May Day, sending out messages to our community members. Some folks were able to participate in the May Day parade, just getting in the vibe of immigration, of workers, and of solidarity. We had a pre-kickoff that happened on April 30th, and that was with the Southern California Leadership Conference, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Southern California. They worked with Baji to do a food and sneaker distribution, very well attended in Leimert Park, which many folks know as the heart of the Black community, but aren't really clear how it's also the heart of the Black immigrant community in Los Angeles. And so that was fabulous. We, had 300 bags of food, got those out, as well as sneakers to our folks, and who were really appreciative. Many of our community members have not been able to get access to the kind of relief and help during this COVID. And so we have a mutual aid that we've been doing since COVID started, or since the restrictions started, at least last year in March. And we continue to do that. And this was a part of that. So that was great. We plan to have this Thursday a caravan. And again, I believe it's the first time that we have a caravan happening that is literally folks showing up in support of Black migrants and focusing on Black migrants. So the caravan is going to begin in Leimert Park. It's going to go from Leimert Park through Black migrant and other communities, right? So it's not going to jump on the freeway, to downtown LA. And then from downtown LA, we're going to go down to San Diego. Mm-hmm. We're hoping that folks will join us. We want to have at least 150, 200 cars out there caravanning down, and we'll make sure that folks stay nourished and refreshed and hydrated. But join us, come, honk your horns and let folks know that you care about Black migrants, that you're showing up for the Black migrants, that you don't want Black migrants to be excluded, that you understand that and you support our efforts to reach our needs and our aspirations. And so if you're interested, anyone who's interested can reach out to the sister that's helping us coordinate this, Ava Vera, at ava@baji.org. That's ava@baji.org, and let us know that you're interested so we can make sure to get you all the information you need to join us. I mean, we're really thankful to SEIU Local 721, to SCLC Southern California, to Clergy for Black Lives for doing this with us and for all of the great support that they're giving to us. We're also very insistent on getting a Black mama bailed out for Mother's Day. And so we are sharing out a link and more information. Folks will be seeing that everywhere come this Monday. We want to get a Black mama out of detention and into the arms of her loving family for Mother's Day. We've done that. This is like the third year now. Mm-hmm. And just because of the pandemic, we don't want to stop. And so we're making sure that happens. And then we have other activities that we want to make sure are happening with faith leaders. And so I know, Reverend Sauls, you are also helping us point on that as part of Baji and the Clergy for Black Lives, to make sure that faith leaders can talk about and are talking about Black migrants during this time period, because we know that our immigrant story is part of the story of all faiths, right? Include the discussion and the story of Black folks who came from other places,
Yeah.
Black folks who migrated, Black folks who came from other places. And so we want to make sure that that is also shared and connected to the story of Black migrants here in the United States and Black folks migrating all over the world. And that's just what we're doing in LA. So in Texas, we're going to be hosting a webinar to talk about Black immigrant priorities, both federal priorities and the priorities in Texas itself. In Florida, we have work that we're doing with the youth, and we're going to be highlighting the youth and showing them off in a showcase that's based upon 6 weeks of work in a program called Quarantine and Heal that Baji was able to put together, dealing with the quarantine, but also the mental health of our young people, which
Yeah.
has really been affected by this pandemic, and helping to keep them together as we keep our community together. In Atlanta, we're going to be joining with our neighbors to push back against detention and seeing what's happened. If you remember, the Irwin Detention Center in Georgia is where the women were forcibly sterilized. And we haven't forgotten, even though they've removed, quote unquote, all the women from Irwin, we know that the atrocities still continue.
Yeah.
And so we're organizing our people there. And so everywhere, all over, everywhere that Baji is, we're going to be doing something during this 10 days of action, show up for Black immigrants, to make sure that we're lifting up the concerns, the needs, the aspirations of Black migrants.
Budget is needed now like never before. And so as we go into our 15th year, I'm just so glad that we have Nana at the helm, and many of us, supporting and working with her and the extraordinary team there at Baji. And so please check out the website for more information at www.baji.org. Nana, how do we spell Ava's name? Is it EVA or AVA?
Thank you. Good question. I forgot about that. It's EVA, EVA at Baji, BAJI.org.
All right.
Ava at Baji.org.
Okay. So send her email, check out the website so that you can know how you can participate. I hope you see the multi faceted, ways that we want to involve people, because we know that one size doesn't fit all, as well as the multi-city and multi-state, opportunities that we have, for folk to participate. 10 days of support and solidarity for Black migrants. We're excited about it, looking forward to that caravan. Thank you, SCLC Southern California, for providing nourishment and food, for our folk in Lamert Park. That was awesome. I saw some of those images, and we continue, this work of, marching towards comprehensive and humane immigration reform. Part of it is because we are marching towards the destination of a more just and fair United States of America. That's what it's about, and looking forward to that work. Nana, I know you have to run. Thank you so much. If you want to say anything else before you roll out to your next gig.
Yes, I want to thank you, Reverend Sauls. Thank you so very much for your vision. That is part of why Baji is even here, but also for your commitment, the solid commitment that I know precedes Baji and continues now and into the future. And I really wanted to let folks know that you're a real one, and we thank you so very much.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Appreciate, the leadership and the partnership, and we gonna get there. And that's why I wanted to open up with Ethiopian Easter, because even though we find ourselves in experiences of Good Friday, we know that resurrection is possible, and we are part of facilitating that. And Nana has done that in so many ways. Baji has done that. So many folk has done that. And I want to thank, them and all of our other partners that we work with, for all of this. So thank you, Nana. Much love, and keep on keeping on.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to switch gears. So looking forward to this next segment. We continue to focus on, the issue around, Black migrants, and this time around the tragedy, that took place in Honolulu, Hawaii, with a black migrant, and so we're gonna delve into what happened to Lindani Myeni, and so we'll be right back. Welcome back once again. This is Faith Without Borders. I'm your host, Pastor Calvin Sauls. So glad you could join us today. We are focusing on black migrants, and we had a great time with Nana from the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. We continue now with a tragedy that took place in Honolulu, Hawaii. April certainly has been one of the most violent months as it relates to police brutality here in the United States. And we know that here in the United States, black is black. But we continue to say Black Lives Matter. In fact, we say all Black Lives Matter. And today we want to say, out of the many names, that we've been saying, today we want to especially say the name of Lindani Myeni, a South African. Him and his family migrated to Honolulu, Hawaii, to start a new life. His wife landed a great job there in real estate, and he was settling in. And he's well, we hear more about him from one of his friends, because we want to, focus on how he died, but also focus on who he was. And so today, so grateful that we have two individuals who've been paying close attention to what's going on with this case, but also working on support and solidarity around it as we come together seeking justice for Lindani Myeni. So I'm so glad to be joined by Mapolo, who is an organizer of the Southern African community in Denver, Colorado, and also joined by Ricky Samuel, who is an organizer, in Oakland, California. So they are with us. Good morning, my brothers. Good to have you. Hey ta.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rev Sauls. Thank you for having us here.
Yes, thanks, I know you're busy with a lot of other stuff. I won't tell your business, but but excited about that too, man. So thanks for taking some time to talk with us.
God willing.
Yeah, talk to us about this very important piece. Ricky, are you there?
We can hear you.
All right.
He needs to. Can you unmute him?
Yeah, Ricky, unmute. It's tough to get Ricky to be silent. Unmute, brother.
We can't hear you, Ricky.
Okay, so he'll work on that. Let's start with you. Let me start just first. How are you and the family doing there in Denver, Colorado, man?
We're doing all right, man. Even though just this past week we caught a case of COVID in the house, but we're surviving. I mean, we so far the symptoms have been very mild.
Yeah.
So yeah, but other than that, everybody's trying to recover from, just the shock of losing a friend and a brother, and I can't begin to tell you how devastating it is for me and even for his family. I mean, my saddest thing is that I have a son exactly the same age as Lindani. My oldest son is 29.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very, very sad and very, very painful. As one who work, around just what's happening around police, violence, incarceration, especially of black people, here in the United States. We were just shocked. I mean, it really takes us back to what happened to Amadou Diallo in New York,
Yeah, in
and
New
a lot
York,
of
that's
people
right.
forget about
Yeah.
Amadou,
Hmm.
in terms of what happened to him. But we're gonna put on some images, of Lindani because we wanna, kind of see him for who he is. There he is with his wife. They are in Hawaii. He was 29 years old, has two infant children, and the Honolulu Police Department. Certainly, we'll hear more about this. But Mpo, tell us, a little bit about what happened. Can you just give us some info? I know you've been in touch with the family, in terms of just what went down, in that particular precinct, in that place, in Honolulu.
Well, I mean, just like everybody else, I was subjected to what the police revealed to the public, what they chose to reveal. A very short video of the police encounter, which leaves so many questions unanswered. Um, Now, after speaking to the wife to understand, because here's the thing, I spoke to Lindani maybe within an hour before he was killed on that Wednesday. And on the phone, we were talking about so many different things. He was on a journey of self-discovery because he had applied for a green card here. He had to get that full birth certificate from South Africa, and he found out that actually his father was a king of the tribe he's from, and he didn't know this. So this was just a lot of information he was processing. So, he had taken a walk outside to go and get some air while he was talking to me, and then shortly after that, he had an encounter with police, and the color of his skin determined that he was going to be put down, The claim was that he was burglarizing some place or some house, around the hour of 8 o'clock in Hawaii. And, even if I was a burglar, I would not go and burglarize a place at 8 o'clock when people are eating dinner. So, I mean, that story just falls flat. And then at the same time, the place he allegedly was burglarizing turns out to be a B&B, where anybody who is at a reservation there can rock up anytime and then say, yeah, I'm here to stay. And they didn't know if that's what he was there for. But next to it, right attached to it, is I believe it's a temple, Buddhist temple or something. And it's a place where people go and they take off shoes and they walk in to sit down to meditate and all that. And I think that's what Lindani was trying to do, especially after the discovery of the information about his parentage and all that. So, but here's the thing. What this situation tells us is that you cannot be confused as to where you're going as a black man, because you can end up dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I mean, when you told me that, I could kind of relate to that in terms of kind of just, losing one's, sense of place and direction and
Yeah,
possibly
where you are.
where you are, and and then kind of looking up and trying to figure out where you are, looking for familiar buildings, around that. And certainly you cannot do that, in the United States, whether on the mainland, and now we also know even in Hawaii, and folk just need to know that policing on the mainland and in Hawaii, that culture, is the same. Hawaii was, basically, occupied by the United States,
Yeah.
and all of that. So all of what was done, with the indigenous people there, that all kind of went into how policing would take place. And so we just have to be aware of the fact that, just because you are in paradise, it ain't paradise for everybody.
Well,
And we
can I
know,
interject
yeah.
something?
Go ahead.
Uh, I have friends who live in Hawaii. I have a friend from Botswana. He's been in contact with Lindani since Lindani moved to Hawaii in January.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been very helpful to Lindani's wife after this happened. His name is Siabelo Silitena.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's one of the statements he made after we discovered what happened. He said to me, I hope Lindani's death is not in vain and it will help uncover the mess and the corruption that has been happening in the Honolulu Police Department. And you have to understand this. The number, the population of Black people or people of color in Honolulu is very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me that routinely there are killings and deaths of Black people, and everything gets squashed so quickly, everything dismissed as a bad character was taken out under very questionable circumstances. So he's hoping that we will agitate enough to get to the bottom of Lindani's, death and how everything went down. But at the same time, that will open that Pandora's box of exposing, all the other ongoings there. Because if you really go back and look at the police report, I mean, that the way everything was just given to us up to this day, we have not been told. There was a 911 call that has not been released. And the lawyer, or the family lawyer on this case, believes that 911 call must have some really unsavory words for the skin color of the man that they were referring to, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, and then now, even today, I didn't even know this. I thought a police chief, serves at the behest of a mayor. The police chief is refusing to give this information to even the mayor of Honolulu. So that just goes to show you, there's a lot of smoke that's choking a lot of people out there, and we need to find out what's the source of the smoke.
Yes. And that's so key. And at the end of our time, we will list some demands that we're looking at. The reason for this podcast is to bring some ongoing publicity to this and some attention to it, because we do believe that all Black lives matter. Let me ask you, tell us about who Lindani was, because I think it's very important that we just get to know, who the person is, because the pattern and the practice of all police departments has been, once we take somebody out, we want to then, put out, their rep, out there, that kind of tries to justify a narrative, that tries to justify why they've taken him out, and not focus on.
The police are saying to us, because that's a bad character, we have sort of been deputized into being the police, the judge and the jury and the executioner at the same time. I mean, where's that, due process for anybody who even the most guilty person? Where's the due process? If you're Black, you don't get that. So, going back to Lindani, I met Lindani a year ago in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. They had just recently moved to Denver, Colorado, him and his family, his wife and his older son. And they came to our house, and they were yearning for South African connection, in Denver. And, we've opened our house to so many people from South Africa because, we try to build the community, try to connect people. And most of that as you were alluding to earlier, we have a food truck business selling South African food. So it's a connection that we make through the community. Now, Lindani, I have a 29-year-old son, same age as Lindani. But, me and my son, we talk a lot, we talk about this and that and many other things. But when I met Lindani, he came through as a very, you know, next level kind of 20-year-old. He's the kind of guy who, I mean, not just personable, but I'm talking this young man, he always thought above himself personally. He always made reference to where he comes from, the people there, and he's always, because he's looking in America how people are living.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like saying to me, there's a lot we can do to help people back home, especially in our villages and all that, and this young man had that grand vision of things. It was not just about, I'm here to empower myself. His vision was to go back home. And to be honest with you, before he even found out that he had some royalty in him, I told him from the get-go that, you do sound like, and you look like somebody who could belong to a royal family. This was the first day when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And little did I know that that was actually true. But he was a young man full of potential. He was like a mechanical engineer, auto engineer back home, and hands-on guy. And he was looking forward to starting afresh with his wife in Hawaii, because the wife had just moved there to run a real estate company, and he was going to work with them, be the handyman for the company and stuff. So I mean, the future was bright. The future was pregnant with so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
And, after moving to Hawaii, he sent me a text and said, Baba, I'm home, man. This is like home, because, he grew up right by the ocean.
Right, yeah.
He's a surfer.
In
So, being in Hawaii for him was like, I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm home. Away from home, but I'm home, so.
Yeah, he was rugby player. He was,
Yes.
part of, South African Idol. So
Idol, yeah.
So this is a very, very gifted
well,
man.
And to speak to what you said earlier about the police here, see, Lindani was, by any accounts, even you don't have to stretch your imagination. He was an upstanding young man. In America, after the cops kill you, whether it was by mistake or intentional, they make it their point to go find out who you are, where you're from, what kind of record you had, and they will bring up everything negative that has happened in your life, even if it happened 15 years ago. It doesn't really matter. Basically, they're trying to say to the public, he was a bad apple from the community, so we took him out. Mm-hmm. So with Lindani, they couldn't find anything. I mean, because they have no control over that. He's from South Africa. That's where most of his record is. Even there, I mean, he has a very stellar and clean life that he's been living, an athlete who played professionally, and, he's a great singer. He went on South African Idol. I mean, so the one report I heard from out of Honolulu after this was, this is them looking for a needle in the haystack about the bad character, saying, he's from South Africa and the country is full of crime, and, kind of saying maybe, the tendency to do crime is a South African thing. So, it just goes down to showing you the evilness that's in these people's hearts, man, for them to, basically, they don't want to own up to a mistake they've made. All they want to do is that they want to double down on saying, yeah, we killed this guy because, he didn't deserve to live. Mm-hmm. And, and we know with many things we've seen around this country, Black people just get killed just for looking at a cop the wrong way. The mm-hmm. cop says, I felt threatened for my life, when somebody didn't even have a gun on them, or a weapon.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's part of that implicit bias, and what we working on across the country, here in Los Angeles as well, is to really, really, push, for integrity, to protect and serve, and what that really means, right? And the oath that police officers take for all people, and secondly, the transparency around the work that they are doing. And we know that, that police culture is very, very, destructive, towards, Black, Indigenous people of color, as well as then the accountability piece. And,
yes.
And so that's a key piece that we want to get to, around the fact that when we say justice for Lindani, we're saying accountability, that needs to take place in that, and so we're calling on the mayor of Honolulu. We calling on the
Police chief.
police chief,
Mhm.
right there. We will also call on the senator, from Hawaii,
Yes.
that's doing extraordinary work,
Yeah.
nationwide in the leadership she's providing in the Democratic Party, to
Yes.
really see, how we can, just get to the bottom of this, because have they yet released the belongings of Lindani to his wife, his wedding ring, and any of his belongings?
Well, unfortunately not, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And the reason being that the prosecutor, because the Myeni family have lodged a lawsuit of wrongful death
Mm-hmm.
against the city of Honolulu. So the prosecutor now has lodged an independent, uh, you know, inquiry into this incident, and now everything that the police were holding on to from Lindani, his cell phone, I mean, all of that is part of the evidence that will be with them until this is concluded.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we know that's going to be a while.
Yeah,
So
and that's indeed very, very painful.
it is very
Yeah.
painful. It is very painful because especially the cell phone probably has a lot of, family pictures that he has taken since they've been there. Because and then and I need to mention that after Lindani was killed I think on the Friday after he was killed, 2 days later, or maybe the Saturday, I don't remember quite well. I got a call from one of the detectives from Honolulu, and he mentioned that, that, which tells me that they've been looking at his phone. They probably used his fingerprint to open the phone,
Mm-hmm.
saying that they saw that me and him, Lindani, were talking quite a bit, calling each other, and then they said you called him just the same day he was killed, and they were kind of trying to find out, what kind of state of mind was he in, and you know in a sense, they were trying to find, like I said, the reason. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to find the reason that they can say, you see, this is why he had to go be killed, because this is what was happening. But unfortunately, he didn't get that from me, because I didn't have to embellish anything. I just told him exactly what was happening. I said, you know what? You guys just killed a man for no reason. I mean, and we're hoping that this independent inquiry will yield some results, but we don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that are missing. The police have body cam video. Well, at the first press conference after the incident, the police chief told us that all the three cops had body cam video. That's what they said. I can play that video for you. You'll hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably was based on fact. But then it took them over 48 hours to release anything, and they released just that 40 seconds of video,
Yeah.
where they claimed that they were assaulted by Lindani. But in the video you can see, and we know, as we all know, they didn't even announce themselves, which is against the law. I mean, a cop doesn't engage anybody in anything. Not even the police cars that they came in had the lights on to at least show that this is police cars. So, and these guys were operating like thugs.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark, and then they encroached on the man, and the man defended himself. He was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because the woman was screaming, saying, that's him, that's him. So maybe he was thinking the woman's friends or brothers or something are here to attack him, and he didn't know who. And then the next thing, the light was shown in his eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and then they shoot him, and then they say, this is the police.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the sequence of events, man, I can see why a lawsuit was filed.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You
And,
know,
and not just that, but clearly, we see pattern and practice from what's going on in eastern North Carolina,
yes,
around,
yes.
there, and how
In
much,
Minnesota,
how much was released. So from coast to coast, I mean, from
yes,
the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast, the
right.
consistency around how law enforcement operates, the violation of dignity, and the ongoing sense of having immunity, around it. I want to bring in, we do want to play, because, the South African government is involved in this.
Yep.
and hopefully, there will be some pressure through the State Department to try and see, what needs to happen around this. We do have, the Lindani, his body did, make it to South Africa, and we'll show some footage about that because it was just very, very moving,
Yeah.
around that. But I want to bring in Ricky Samuels from Oakland, California. He's an activist over there, immigrant from South Africa, been at the forefront, in Oakland in so many, ways, fighting, apartheid, the liberation of South Africa, as well as, a lot of challenges going on, in Oakland, from Lake Merritt to so many other places. Ricky, is your sound rolling right now?
Uh, Sawana, I don't know if it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. So can you just quickly, just give us, a sense of, your perspective on this, and then we want to show, part of this, the video of Lindani arriving home, because when I received that, from our from our Mzansi touch base, WhatsApp group, it was just very moving to me just to experience that. But just some thoughts from you, Ricky, and then we'll go to that.
Well, I'm going to open up with that phrase. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we came to America during the apartheid time, and we came into this whole thing of white supremacy. At the time when I came, there was like people from the Black Panthers that were in prison, and Free Geronimo Pratt Committee at the time, yeah, in the Bay Area. And when you look, time is gone, and if there's not much change, so this white supremacy is deep rooted within the system,
Mm-hmm.
very deep rooted. And like when we spoke earlier today with Employ, like he was saying what Trevor Noah said, it's like a tree planted, and if you don't get rid of the tree and replant a brand new tree to get new fruit, but I'm just saying it my way, you are not going to get rid of systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But with the current thing, this thing hit really to my heart because Paul's a very great comrade, friend of mine, and we talk, and as well as you, Pastor Sauls. And yes, we care about how our brothers and sisters, everybody, how we treat it, whether it's in America or anywhere in the world. We do not want to see this oppression of white supremacy. My son, growing up in Oakland, had very many close calls with police harassment. We also got to think that it's not just the killings of blacks, what it does to the community mentally. What is the message that they're sending? When you see time and time again, there could be a white man like the one that happened in Michigan where he shot 200 rounds, shot at his neighbors, but he was taken into custody
Mm-hmm.
in handcuffs,
Mm-hmm.
not shot.
Not shot. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
these cases go on and on. There is a very big bias within the system, and this system has to be dismantled.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it's made me think of ways to move into action. Oh, yesterday I spent time connecting with the African National Congress people that I know, saying, you know what, we need to really put pressure on the Honolulu Police Department. You know,
Yeah.
uh, I remember one of my trips back to South Africa with a good friend down there, Bongi Maseko, and meeting some of the police chiefs. And they even asked me what is happening in America where they're killing our black brothers and sisters. Imagine if we had to kill every white person, yeah, that whether they're coming in for vacation or whether they do, because the whites do challenge black police officers in South Africa. And there's many, many videos, but they do not shoot to kill them. So when you're talking about a first world country and their policing policies, and you compare policing around the world, these guys are really treating, there's no humility for humanity.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
a black person is treated like an animal. You know, so something we need to really put a lot of pressure. It's like you cannot be singing kumbaya now. You know, there has to be some drastic action, and all it's like even overcoming apartheid, how the unions came together, South African Council of Churches, all the organizations came together for one cause to dismantle apartheid. That's what we need to do here in the United States. Black Lives Matter needs to come together. NAACP needs to together. The National Action Committee needs to come together, which they are.
Right.
But there needs to be much more stronger presentation and demands to say this has to end, and you have to give them a timeline.
Yeah, and this is the time for it. I mean, if you listen to President Biden on during his address to join, a session of Congress, really, I mean, talking about the fact that white supremacy is terrorism, right? And we know that has, infected and impacted how policing, is done here. The pattern and the practice of policing in the United States is inhumane. It is discriminatory. There's a lot of implicit bias, and this goes from the mainland to Hawaii, and it has to be addressed with much urgency around that. There is a value gap that we have to deal with, and that's why saying Black Lives Matter, is revolutionary in terms of challenging systemic and institutional racism that continues to go on in the United States.
Now, Pastor Sauls, just before you go to the video,
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to interject here and clarify what Ricky said about what Trevor Noah said. I mean, on his show. And he said that the tree of injustice against Black America
Mm-hmm.
is bearing fruit. In other words, all these killings and all this brutalization that we're seeing. And he said, when you have a tree that's bearing you bad fruit, the only way to deal with it is to cut it down
Mm-hmm.
and plant a new one.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that, and I'm going to say it, is to defund the police. And that
reform, defund, and all
yes,
that.
Yeah, that has to take place in terms of just, what needs to happen here, because disparity in policing, is a direct threat to any democracy, and we have to deal with that because it undermines the very foundation, of what it means to have equal justice under the law, which is due process. Right?
Yes.
And the way it's taking place right now, it's undermining that, which then messes with equal justice under the law, which is a core value of any democracy, around that. So we have to look at that. That's kind of the roots that produces all these fruits. So let's. I think we have that video, ready. We want to just once again see Lindani arriving at home and just hear what happened during that time.
America, you should bury your head in shame. You have just become a slaughterhouse of our black brothers. As the people of South Africa, we collectively demand swift justice on the death of Mr. Myeni, who at the age of 29 leaves behind two young, beautiful children and his beloved wife and our daughter-in-law, Lindani Myeni. As we stand here before you, we are a nation in anger and mourning.
Myeni left here walking. He must have gone through the customs. He must have gone through the process flying, looking for a better life, looking for improving his own life in terms of his studies and all. He did not think that one day he's going to be coming back as remains. We call on the US government to provide a full report as speedily as possible and to conduct a thorough investigation on this tragedy, which we condemn in the strongest terms, and that those found guilty should face the full might of the law and take accountability for this cruel act.
Very, very moving and just so powerful. This is a life, a black life that matters. This is a black life that matters, who was part of a family, who was part of a tribe, who was part of a nation. And Mpo, your thoughts?
Man, I have to correct myself here. That video it just hit home. It hit home. Man, I was sitting with Lindani in my house having dinner. We had barbecues here a few times, you know. And seeing his wife, I mean, the man just died because he's black. Just because he's black. There are many incidents we've seen cops dealing with white people. I mean, there's a guy who killed a cop and killed a motorist, took their car, and the guy got arrested. It was 2 days after Lindani was shot, somewhere down the south.
Mm-hmm. Texas, right?
Okay. The police reform cannot come soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
If anything that we have to do for Lindani, we can't bring him back, but anything we have to do for him, this is my dedication to my friendship to him and his life. I'm going to do everything in my power to see that there's change, and the Honolulu police don't see any peace until they reveal all the information that they should be revealing about this whole incident and give him back to his wife, his personal belongings. I mean, that's how much we owe to him. And we need every avenue that we can get our hands on to make the most noise about this, because the media has not even given this thing any attention.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ricky, any thoughts? Then we're going to talk about, how can we support, justice really for Lindani. Mm-hmm.
They need to understand, even though they say South Africa has a lot of crime, they got to understand that South Africa, with our cultures and the initiation of young men and women, like on the show on Beach Radio the other day, I had to say that about, even my son Zane becoming an Eagle Scout. This was basically in the 1800s. Lord Baden-Powell had studied the Zulus. And all that was taken to the first Boy Scout troop, the Brown Sea troop. So why I'm bringing that up is to show you from a young age how they mold character. To be everybody has a part within society. Yes, we have crime, but when somebody goes through that regiment, you become a man of such honorable character that, you cannot be just another hashtag as a black man. The early history of whites, they didn't have model character. But us as Africans, we always had a strong sense of model character, our place in society.
Mm-hmm.
Europeans did not have that. And these stories have to be told, because they cannot all just put us into one box and each time it's just the color of your skin. Senzanina.
Mm-hmm.
Senzanina has to stop.
Yes, sir.
Senzanina has to stop. And what it does, it there is going to come a point where if they do not do something about it, it is going to boil over.
Yeah.
The boiling over was when you look at apartheid South Africa, there was not many things that were not mentioned with that transition, that they had to negotiate peaceful resolution because there was about to be a white massacre in South Africa, and they knew it was coming because they took on the armed struggle. They were tired of singing Kumbaya. And there's going to come a time, you cannot push people always down without no retaliation. And, they don't stop it in the civil way, the repercussions are going to happen to them. Time will tell. And I know it's the frustration I'm feeling now, but man, this has to stop. I have a grandson now that we have to be concerned. We have to think about, we don't want to go another 5 years, not even one more year. This has to stop right now. And I think if we all come together now that we even have this, I've been reaching out to the African community, leadership within the African community, like the Tanzanians and the Congo community leaders here. And we're going to be having these meetings about how we can join up with the greater groups of America, like Black Lives Matter and National Action Network. We need to also step forward now and show our presence that we've been supporting you, but we need to support it even more, and we need to put much more pressure. One of the ways that I think that you can hit them, there has to be a national day of boycotts. Hit them in the pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is critical, around, the absence and the silence, of Black migrants must be transformed. We need to show up and speak up as well. And that's very, very important. We've done that. We need to continue to do it. That's why, the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, was formed. And there are several other organizations now. And so this is certainly an opportune time. We want to move to not necessarily conclusion, but next steps. So, Mpo, can you just let us know, how can folks support, justice for Lindani as we move forward?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin, but I'll start with this. We now have a new administration in the White House. And it was very evident when the elections were taking place that the Biden administration owes a lot to Black people. Georgia came big for him. It was Black people who came out to vote and get him in there. He owes it to us because we are Black. It doesn't matter whether I'm an immigrant from, a few years ago, if I, parentage from the slavery in this country. Those cops don't care. They just see a Black man. And they will do what they do to all Black people in this country when they encounter me in the street. I mean, I have 3 sons. I'm sick and tired of having to talk to them to, don't move your hands, put them on the steering wheel. I mean, why do I have to do that? Why do I have to tell my sons? Because, my sons are people of high moral character. They have a good creed. I've raised them that way. But when they come across a cop, he doesn't care. He sees a Black boy that he thinks I can shoot him and get away with it for whatever reason. So we need some federal legislation passed that will deal with making the police accountable for their actions, and making sure that no police department like what the Honolulu is doing now can hide information as they are doing now. And we don't know if we'll ever see that information because, they might erase it because maybe it's incriminating to them for what happened, prior to Lindani being killed. We don't know. Why are they not giving us that? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that there's a law that's put in place, federal law, that says if a policeman is involved in any kind of shooting, whether fatal or not, they need to pee in a cup and let's see if they're of a sound mind, they're not under drugs. And then the second one, if it's a black person that was killed, we need to find out if these cops are not part of a white supremacist group, because we know now that the police force has been infiltrated by members of white supremacy all over the place.
Right.
I mean, those are the people that the previous president paid homage to in one of his speeches when he was rerunning for the next term.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot that has to be done, and obviously dismantling the police is not going to happen. There's going to be a lot of pushback. But as far as funding the cops, I think we need to hold funds back until we see proper reforms are happening in every single department, where the cops will be held accountable for their actions. And then if none is forthcoming, that they should suffer, not having enough funds to run their departments. So, I mean, something drastic has to be done. You see, that the problem here is that we're the ones who are feeling the pain. And I'm sick and tired of singing Senzenina.
Right.
We're the ones feeling the pain. White people don't feel the pain, then there's no urgency on their part to deal with this matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks. Ricky, any final thoughts from you?
Well, my final thought is really on transparency.
Okay.
There should be a certain law or code that says when a thorough investigation by independent group, and that it's not associated with police.
Civilian.
We also got to dismantle these police associations.
Right.
That is number one, because that's where the root of white supremacy is. And you have noticed how outspoken they are, how they protect the police at all times. And then, whenever something does go wrong, like I was watching the video of the governor in Florida when they were putting pressure on this new riot laws. I was watching the sheriffs in the background, how they were nodding their heads. That body language just tells you white supremacy.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to be so proactive in such a way that we have to push for this transparency, that there has to be a mandate when a black person like Paul says, we have to have transparency where in private investigators or a team goes in and sees if the police officer was of good judgment or not, and whether his mental state was right.
Yeah.
With that, I just want to refer to our brother, Dr. Rogers Governor, who used to work with mental health patients in the Los Angeles County. He had written up a whole kind of a training manual to try to get the police departments in LA, that this was a mandate that during their training, because to become police officers, in some counties or cities, it only takes 6 months. What do you learn in 6 months? It's just a push-through system.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with mental health and with Black lives. The only city that kind of agreed to it was the city of Torrance. Then they got so much denial. Nobody wanted to even push that initiative. So the work ahead is going to be tough, but we gotta keep on going. We cannot let loose of the reins. We really need to be proactive. We really need to put our minds together, and we need to talk about the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the uncomfortable until we get equity in policing.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ricky, for that. And Paul, when we send out, Paul, if there's a GoFundMe page or anything, we'll include those links when we send out.
I will send you that information. Yes.
Yeah, so that folk can connect around this, and certainly, we'll work hard to keep up with what's happening around justice for Lindani. But one thing, is clear. I mean, the onslaught, on Black life and Black lives, in the United States has got to come to an end.
It has to.
That that onslaught that comes by way of white nationalism, as well as racist policing, has to come to an end. It's long overdue, and we know that on January 6th, we've seen now that has even become a threat to this democracy, that we are living in. And so it is key for us, to have all hands on deck, around this. And again, the three words that I always mention: the integrity, the transparency, as well as the accountability around this is going to be critical for us as we do that. One thing we have to understand, that before there can be racial reconciliation, there has to be racial justice.
Yes.
We have to really come to terms with that. And
equal justice.
Yes, equal justice. And part of that, what gets us there is when we deal with, this system of racial capitalism that results in, in racial inequity. And it's a long haul fight. And our ancestors have been at this for an extremely long time. They've handed the baton over to us right now, and it's up to us to see how we can now move. My representative, Congresswoman Karen Bass, is leading the work around the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act of 2021, and so she's at it. She's at the table. It's bipartisan, even though we suspect of who they're working with on the Republican side. Because of that response to President Biden's address by the key negotiator, Senator Tim Scott, from South Carolina, and everything he said, around that. But this administration, this Congress, both, the Senate as well as the House, we cannot back down. We have to stand our ground. And make sure that we get this through as we care for Black people, as we care for Black migrants, and as we care for everyone. But we got to start somewhere. And this is why we say all Black lives matter. And that's our point of departure. Thank you so much for joining us, here at Faith Without Borders. We'll continue our work together through this platform and in so many other ways as we march, towards a more just and fair United States of America, and indeed a more just and fair world. We started off by talking about, that this is, Easter in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. And so we believe that we can be an Easter people, and be about resurrection and restoration and revolution, because that's what Easter was about. It was a revolutionary act, a divine revolutionary act. And it invites us, to continue to work for, Easter moments in the midst of Good Friday experiences. It's good to be with you.
I'm going to exit with this. Amandla away too.
Yes.
Amandla.
Yeah,
away too.
And we say his name, Lindani
Justice
Myeni.
for Lindani.
Yeah, justice for
Lindani.
Lindani. Thanks so much, brothers.
Thank you.
Blessings, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
Peace. Thank you.